Imagine Buckingham Palace, September 9th, 2025. Not the postcard image, but the real thing. A place of echoing corridors, hushed whispers, and secrets clinging to the very stone. The air is thick with a tension so palpable you could taste it. The kind of dread that settles in when an unspoken truth hangs heavy, threatening to shatter the carefully constructed facade of the British monarchy. The truth? King Charles III, barely back to royal duties after a period of convalescence, is failing fast. The whispers started, as they always do, with an unnamed insider, a member of the royal household, cracking under the pressure. The king is not the same, the source confided to a tabloid, their voice trembling. Meetings are brief. His handshake is weak. He's trying, but his body just won't cooperate. Devastatingly simple words, yet they ignited a firestorm. Headlines screamed about the king's grave illness, about a potential cover-up. The public, from Yorkshire tea rooms to New York boardrooms, buzzed with speculation. Is the crown about to face another crisis? Charles, ever aware of the optics, attempted to quell the rising panic. A balcony appearance, a rare gesture aimed at reassuring the nation. But what the crowds witnessed was far from reassuring. Dressed in a navy suit, Charles looked like a ghost of his former self. Thinner, shoulders slumped, his hands trembling as he gripped the railing for support. The confident smile, once his trademark, had vanished, replaced by a tight, colorless line. The silence from the crowd was deafening, broken only by the wind and the relentless clicks of cameras capturing every painful second. But the king's failing health wasn't the only cause for alarm. The inexplicable absence of Queen Camilla added fuel to the fire. Where was she? The woman who had weathered decades of scandal and scrutiny to stand by Charles's side had simply vanished. No statement, no explanation, just gone. The questions mounted. Was Camilla hiding away, bracing for the worst? Had she retreated to her private home in Wiltshire, seeking solace from the storm? Or, as some whispered, did she know something the public didn't? The narrative quickly spiraled. In London, coffee shops and crowded tube carriages, the same unnerving question circulated. Is the British throne beginning to crumble? No one had a definitive answer, but a cold, creeping unease settled in, as long and lingering as the autumn chill encasing Buckingham Palace. Behind those imposing doors, glances were avoided, conversations were hushed, and secrets seemed to vibrate in the air. A tempest was brewing, and no one knew who would be swept away when it finally broke. The mystery deepened when, days later, Prince William and Princess Kate stepped into the spotlight at Kensington Palace. The air crackled with anticipation. Charity benefactors, international journalists, and invited guests, all eyes locked on the couple. The heavy cloud cast by King Charles's declining health still lingered, but William and Kate seemed to carry a sense of renewal. Behind them, a banner proclaimed Diana Initiative. A photograph of Princess Diana, her luminous smile instantly quieting the room, filled the screen. William, dressed in a refined gray suit, stepped up to the lectern, his tone steady yet filled with conviction. Today, we introduce the Diana Initiative, he announced. A vision for royal reform inspired by the legacy of my mother, Princess Diana, a woman who stood for compassion, for change, and for the values we as a nation hold dear. Kate, elegant in an emerald dress, offered a gentle smile. The Diana Initiative is more than a charitable project, she continued. It is a pledge to bring the monarchy closer to the people, to make it more open and more fitting for the realities of the 21st century. The reaction was immediate and intense. The press hailed the initiative as a revitalizing force, a fitting homage to Diana. Images of the late princess, once marginalized by the royal establishment, flooded television broadcasts and front pages. Her acts of kindness, her unwavering commitment to humanitarian causes were revisited with heartfelt admiration. For many, the Diana Initiative was more than a modernizing blueprint. It felt like the return of a legend, a solemn assurance that the monarchy was determined not to repeat its past failings. But behind the seemingly unified front, a quiet war was brewing. Inside Buckingham Palace, the mood was anything but celebratory. The Diana Initiative had been launched without consulting Charles or Camilla, a daring, almost defiant move that bordered on insubordination. In Charles's private study at Clarence House, the air hung heavy. Sir Edward Fitzroy, one of the king's most trusted aides, stood near the desk, a report from Kensington in his hands. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice laced with unease. Prince William did not inform anyone in advance, not a single word. Even the Privy Council was left unaware. Charles, slumped in a velvet chair, his thin hands resting weakly on the polished desk, remained silent. His gaze, dulled by illness, was fixed on a family portrait. Diana's timeless smile seemed to mock the present turmoil. Murmurs rippled through the staff. "William's gone too far," one servant muttered. "He wants the monarchy to follow his lead, even while the king still holds the crown." Another, frowning, responded, "But why now? When His Majesty is so unwell?" Was William long seen as the epitome of duty, subtly laying the groundwork for his own reign? And was Kate, with her calm elegance, the strategist, shaping the throne's future from behind the scenes? Then came the unsettling silence surrounding Camilla. No royal engagements, no official statements. The woman who had endured so much criticism had simply vanished. Journalists circled, sensing a story. One contact in Wiltshire claimed she'd retreated to Raymil House, her private sanctuary. Another bolder source whispered that Camilla had fiercely opposed the Diana initiative in a private meeting, calling it an insult that reduced her to a shadow of Kate, and even more so of Diana. The tension within Buckingham Palace thickened. In a private meeting room at Clarence House, light from crystal chandeliers illuminated centuries-old paintings, failing to soften the chill. Camilla, wearing a gray wool coat, stood opposite William, her face etched with anger. "William," she began, her voice shaking, "the Diana initiative is a betrayal, not only of me, but of your father. You announced it without a word to him at the weakest moment of his life. Is this what a son does?" William didn't flinch. "Camilla, this isn't about you. It's about the future of the monarchy. We don't wait for the perfect moment. We seize it. The Diana initiative is essential, and the public has already accepted it." He paused, his eyes scanning her with an unspoken look. "This has nothing to do with my father's health, or with anyone personally." Beneath his words, a subtle edge. Every syllable directed at her status, her place within the palace. Camilla felt the sting. William wasn't just debating reform. He was challenging her, the woman forever branded the other woman, forever contrasted with Diana. "You think I don't see it?" she murmured. "You and Kate are rewriting the story, pushing me into the shadows so Diana can shine. But I won't let you sweep me aside so easily, William." Her words were cutting, but underneath, vulnerability. She couldn't show Charles. The only person who could defend her was too frail. In recent days, she'd found him slumped in his chair, drained, unable to shield her as he once had. The next morning brought fresh humiliation. Portraits of Camilla, once displayed beside Charles in government departments, had been quietly removed. No announcement, no explanation. A staff member at the Foreign Office muttered, "We were told to replace them with landscape paintings." In her bedroom at Clarence House, Camilla stared at her reflection, a face marked by years of hostility and comparison to Diana. "They're erasing me," she whispered. She knew the truth. With Charles weakened, allies absent, and the Diana initiative capturing hearts, Camilla felt herself fading, reduced to a silhouette beyond the palace walls. In the hushed world of Gatcombe Park, Princess Anne, a figure of unwavering resolve, received the news of Camilla's quiet vanishing with a grim nod. Enough was enough. The monarchy wasn't some reality show where feelings trumped duty. It was an institution, a legacy, and it was being dragged through the mud. Anne, who had always kept a strategic distance from the palace's petty squabbles, decided to intervene, not out of any particular fondness for Camilla, mind you. Their relationship had always been complicated, to say the least. But someone had to uphold the standards, to remind everyone what the crown truly represented. The stage for her intervention? A naval ceremony in Portsmouth. Not exactly the setting for a royal takedown, but Anne had never been one for theatrics. Dressed in a simple navy ensemble, she stepped up to the lectern, her voice cutting through the air like a brisk sea breeze. "The monarchy exists to serve," she declared, her words laced with steel, "not to chase glory or reopen old wounds for personal advantage. Self-serving agendas, no matter how carefully veiled, only weaken us." Ouch. No names were mentioned, but the message was clear. Anne wasn't just offering a gentle critique, she was delivering a broadside aimed directly at Camilla's increasingly desperate attempts to cling to power. The press naturally went wild. "Princess Anne rebukes Camilla amid royal turmoil," the headline screamed. But the real gold lay in the backstory. The media, ever eager to dredge up the past, reminded everyone of Anne's brief romance with Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's former husband, before he married Camilla. The tangled web of royal relationships. It wasn't about lingering heartbreak, mind you. Anne was far too pragmatic for that. It was about principle. About watching Camilla, in Anne's eyes, claw her way to the center of royal power, a position she simply hadn't earned. The simmering tension finally boiled over during a private confrontation at Clarence's house. In a room dripping with history, Camilla, her eyes blazing, confronted Anne. "You've never accepted me, have you, Anne? From the very beginning, you've treated me as an intruder. You've always believed I don't belong here, that I'm unworthy of this monarchy." Anne, unyielding, met Camilla's gaze head-on. "No, Camilla," she replied, her voice cold and precise. "I don't accept you because you have never truly lived for the monarchy. You have lived for yourself, for your relationship, your ambition. This institution is not a stage for your personal fulfillment." Brutal, but honest. Anne saw Camilla as someone who had always put her own desires ahead of the crown, and in Anne's world, that was simply unforgivable. As autumn gave way to a bitter winter, the ghost of Diana loomed larger than ever. The Diana Initiative had reignited the public's love for the late princess, reminding everyone of her compassion, her vulnerability, and the injustices she had suffered. And with that renewed adoration came renewed scrutiny of Camilla. The press, never once to miss an opportunity for drama, unearthed a handwritten letter from Diana, penned just months before her death. "You must understand there are palace schemes surrounding me," Diana had written to Charles. "Their aim is not only to push me out, but to wipe me from the public's heart. Be careful, Charles. Those closest to you may be the ones you should fear the most." Chilling words. While Camilla wasn't explicitly named, the implication was clear. Diana, even from beyond the grave, seemed to be warning of Camilla's ambition. The headlines exploded, "Diana's warning, is Camilla the hidden threat?" The letter became a weapon, further isolating Camilla and solidifying her image as the villain in Diana's story. At Clarence's house, Camilla, alone and besieged, felt the walls closing in. Every image of Diana, every nostalgic article was a silent accusation. "They'll never leave me in peace," she whispered, the words a bitter curse. William, of course, remained Teflon. In a carefully orchestrated BBC interview, he addressed his mother's letter with just the right amount of solemnity. "My mother always warned of dangers lurking in the shadows," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "What we're doing now is to make sure her legacy lives on and that the monarchy never repeats the mistakes of the past." Translation: Camilla, you're on notice. The Diana Initiative became a juggernaut. Every event, every speech, every charity drive was a masterclass in public relations. William and Kate, bathed in the adoration of the masses, were effectively auditioning for the roles they already seemed to believe were theirs. Meanwhile, back at Clarence's house, Charles was fading fast. Real power had already migrated west to Kensington Palace. Courtiers, those notoriously fickle creatures, were defecting en masse. The press had already crowned William and Kate the king and queen in practice. Camilla, once Charles's rock, was now a pariah. Even the palace servants were sharpening their knives. "She's finished," one was overheard saying. "There's no place for her in this monarchy anymore." In a moment of quiet desperation, Camilla sought out Charles. She found him by the window, gazing out at the dying garden. "Charles," she pleaded, "they've taken everything from us. William, Kate, Anne, they're not just after the throne. They want to wipe us out completely." Charles turned, his eyes filled with a heartbreaking resignation. "I waited my entire life for this crown, Camilla," he murmured. "But perhaps it was never truly ours to keep." That was it. The final confession. The admission that their reign, their love story, their very existence in the royal sphere was over. As William and Kate basked in the limelight at Kensington, Camilla stood alone at a window in Clarence's house, watching the distant glow. Then, like a ghost, she vanished. No farewell speech, no dramatic exit, just silence. So the question remains, have William and Kate truly saved the monarchy, ushering in a new era of popularity and relevance? Or will the ghosts of Diana and the bitter memory of Camilla forever haunt the crown, preventing it from ever truly being reborn? It's hard to say, but one thing is for sure, the House of Windsor is never short on drama, scandal, or a good old-fashioned power struggle. And the next chapter is bound to be even more explosive than the last.